The autumn night was quiet in the small village of. The rice fields stretched out like golden blankets under the pale moonlight. Walked along the dirt path toward his small farmhouse, tired from a long day of work. He was a veterinarian, the only one in this rural area, and today he had treated 3 sick cows, a dog with a broken leg, and a cat that had eaten something bad. Was 32 years old, with kind eyes and rough hands. He had served in the military as a medic for 8 years before returning to his grandmother's village. He wanted peace. He wanted simple days filled with animals and fresh air. The city had been too loud, too fast, too cruel. He looked up at the stars as he walked. They were bright tonight, scattered across the black sky like spilled salt. He often wondered if anyone was up there, looking back down at him. The answer came faster than he expected. A streak of fire cut across the sky. At first thought it was a shooting star, but it grew larger, brighter. The sound came next, a terrible roaring that shook the ground beneath his feet. He stumbled backward as the fireball crashed into his rice field, sending dirt and water flying in every direction. Stood frozen for a moment. His heart pounded in his chest. Then his training kicked in. Someone might be hurt. He ran toward the crash site, his boots splashing through the shallow water of the paddy field. The object was not a meteor. It was some kind of machine, about the size of a small car, made of metal that glowed with fatting heat. Strange symbols covered its surface, letters from no language had ever seen. Smoke rose from cracks in the hull. He circled around it carefully. Then he saw the opening, a hatch that had been blown outward by the impact. Without thinking, he climbed inside. The interior was dark except for blinking red lights. Everything was damaged, sparking and hissing. And there, strapped into a small seat, was a child. His breath caught in his throat. She was not human. Her skin was silver, smooth and faintly glowing. Her hair was white like fresh snow, floating slightly as if she were underwater. She was tiny, smaller than any child he had seen, perhaps the size of a 3-year-old human. But her face showed intelligence beyond her size. Her eyes were closed, and dark blue blood leaked from a cut on her forehead. Did not hesitate. He unbuckled the strange straps holding her and lifted her gently into his arms. She weighed almost nothing. Her body was cold, trembling. He carried her out of the crashed pod and across the field to his house. Inside, he laid her on his bed and began to work. He cleaned the wound on her head. It was not deep. He wrapped her in warm blankets. He lit a fire in the stove because she was so cold. For 2 hours he sat beside her, watching, waiting. He should call someone, the police, the government, but something stopped him. She was so small, so helpless. If he called the wrong people, what would they do to her? Finally, her eyes opened. Had never seen eyes like hers. They were violet, deep and bright like amethyst stones. They held fear, confusion, and pain. She looked around the room wildly, then her gaze found him. She screamed. It was not a loud scream. It was a sound of pure terror, high and thin. She scrambled backward on the bed, pressing herself against the wall. Tears streamed down her silver cheeks. Raised his hand slowly, showing he meant no harm. He spoke softly, gently, the way he spoke to frightened animals. "It is okay," he said. "You are safe. I will not hurt you." She did not understand his words. Of course she did not. But she understood his tone. Her screaming stopped. She watched him with wide eyes, still shaking. "Pointed to himself," he said. Then he pointed to her, tilting his head in question. She stared at him for a long moment. Then, in a voice like tiny bells, she whispered, "Lyra." Lyra repeated. He smiled at her. "Hello, Lyra." She did not smile back, but she stopped shaking. She let him approach. When he offered her a cup of warm water, she drank it with trembling hands. That night, Lyra did not sleep. She sat in the corner of the bed, watching the door, watching the windows, sat in a chair nearby, refusing to leave her alone. Sometime before dawn, exhaustion finally took her. She fell asleep sitting up, her small head dropping to her chest. carefully lifted her and laid her down properly. He pulled the blanket over her tiny body. In sleep, she looked peaceful, young, innocent. What had happened to her? Who was she running from? The answer came with the sunrise. Heard the sound first, a deep humming that made his teeth ache. He stepped outside and looked up. 2 ships hung in the sky above his farm. They were massive, blocking out the morning sun. One was sleek and silver, covered in the same strange symbols as Lyra's pod. The other was black and angular, covered in weapons. People began to descend from both ships. No, not people, beings, creatures from beyond the stars. From the silver ship came tall, elegant figures in white robes. Their skin was pale blue, their eyes large and calm. They moved with grace and spoke with soft voices. From the black ship came soldiers. They were reptilian, covered in dark green scales, carrying weapons that glowed with red light. Their leader was massive and angry. Both groups approached his house. He stood in the doorway, blocking their path. "Where is the child?" the reptilian leader demanded. His voice was harsh, translated by a device on his collar. "She is under the protection of the Galactic Peacekeepers," one of the blue-skinned beings said. "You have no claim here, Commander." "The girl belongs to the Dominion," the reptilian snarled. "Stand aside, human." "Did not move. She is hurt and scared. No one is taking her anywhere." The reptilian laughed. "You dare challenge me? You are nothing. Your entire species is nothing." Behind, the door opened. Small footsteps padded across the wooden floor. Lyra appeared beside him, her violet eyes fixed on the aliens before her. The blue-skinned beings gasped. The reptilian soldiers raised their weapons. But Lyra did not look at them. She reached up with her tiny hand and pressed it against his chest, right over his heart. A warmth spread through his body. Light, soft and golden, began to glow where Lyra touched him. She closed her eyes and spoke words in a language older than the stars. The blue-skinned beings fell to their knees. One of them was crying. "Impossible," whispered the reptilian commander. "The soul bond." She performed the soul bond. Lyra opened her eyes. She looked at the aliens with a strength that seemed impossible for someone so small. "Mine," she said, her voice clear and firm. "He is mine." Did not understand what had happened, but he understood one thing. This tiny silver girl had chosen him, and whatever came next, he would not let anyone take her away. The reptilian commander stepped back, his face twisted with rage. "This is not over, human. The Dominion does not forget." His soldiers retreated to their ship. It rose into the sky and vanished. The peacekeepers remained. Their leader, a gentle being named, approached with tears in his large eyes. "Do you understand what she has done?" asked. "In 10,000 years, no one has ever bonded with an alien. You have been chosen, human. You are her guardian now. Forever." Looked down at Lyra. She was holding his hand, her tiny fingers wrapped around 2 of his. She looked up at him with those violet eyes, and for the first time she smiled. "I do not understand any of this," said quietly, "but I will protect her, that much I can promise." And somewhere deep in his heart, in a place he had thought long dead, something warm began to bloom again. The journey to the Galactic Council Station took 3 days. Spent most of that time staring out the window of the Peacekeeper ship, watching stars pass by like fireflies in an endless field. He had never imagined such things existed. Planets of every color, moons made of ice and crystal, ships of 1,000 different designs, carrying beings from worlds he could not even pronounce. Lyra stayed close to him the entire time. She rarely spoke, but she watched everything with those large violet eyes. When she ate. When he slept, she curled up beside him like a small cat. The peacekeepers brought her food from their supplies, strange fruits and glowing liquids, but she refused to eat unless was nearby. Elder explained many things during the journey. He was the last adult, ancient and frail, with silver skin that had faded to gray. His people had been prophets and seers, able to look into the hearts of all living things. For this gift they had been hunted. The Dominion, a military empire that ruled through fear, wanted to use children as weapons. They could predict battles before they happened. They could expose traitors with a single glance. Lyra's parents had died protecting her. Her older brother had sacrificed himself so her escape pod could launch. She was the last of her royal line, perhaps the last child in existence. The soul bond is sacred, explained too. A can only perform it once in their lifetime. They choose a guardian whose soul matches their own, someone who will protect them completely, without hesitation, without selfish desire. In all our history, we have only bonded with other. What Lyra did was unheard of. Why me? Asked. I am nobody. I am just a farmer who fixes sick animals. Smiled a tired but warm expression. That is exactly why. She looked into your heart and found it pure. You did not see an alien or a prize or a problem. You saw a scared child who needed help. That is rarer than you know. The council station was massive, a ring of metal and light floating in empty space. Ships came and went constantly, carrying diplomats and traders from across the galaxy. When stepped off the peacekeeper vessel, he felt very small. Beings of every shape and size filled the corridors. Some walked on 2 legs, others on 4 or 6 or none at all. Some were covered in fur, others in scales or crystal or something that looked like living fire. They all stopped to stare at and the tiny silver girl holding his hand. The council chamber was enormous. 12 platforms surrounded a central floor, each holding a representative of the elder species. These were the oldest civilizations in the galaxy, the founders of the peace that had lasted for. They looked down at with expressions ranging from curiosity to disgust. A human, said one of them, a towering being made of living crystal. His voice echoed like thunder. They send us a primitive ape to discuss the fate of a princess. Said carefully, the soul bond is absolute. It cannot be broken or transferred. This man is her guardian by her choice. The choice of a traumatized child, shouted another, a creature with 4 arms and skin like polished wood. She was frightened and dying. She bonded with the first warm body she found. This bond is invalid. Ambassador, you know that is not how the soul bond works, replied. The bond reads the soul, not the circumstances. She saw something in this human that we cannot see. What she saw was desperation, said. Sight can be clouded by fear. This human cannot possibly raise a royal child. He comes from a species that still wars with itself. They have barely reached their own moon. They are children themselves. Listen to them argue about him like he was not there. His anger grew slowly, but he kept it controlled. He had learned patience in the military. He had learned to wait. Finally he spoke. His voice was calm but firm. May I say something? The chamber fell silent. They stared at him as if a dog had suddenly begun to speak. You may, said a being covered in flowing robes that seemed to be made of starlight. Her voice was kind. We will hear you, human. Stepped forward. I did not ask for this. 3 days ago I was treating a cow with a bad stomach. I do not understand your politics. I do not understand your prophecies, but I understand one thing. He looked around at each of them. A child crashed in my field. She was hurt and scared. I helped her because that is what you do when a child needs help. I did not care what she looked like. I did not care where she came from. She was alone and afraid, and I could make her feel safe. He pointed at the You have argued for an hour about treaties and traditions and whether humans are worthy, but not one of you has asked about her. Not one of you has asked if she is okay. Not one of you has looked at her with kindness. Lyra squeezed his hand. I do not know if I am the right guardian, continued. I am just a farmer and a veterinarian, but I know this. She chose me, and until she tells me she does not want me anymore, I will stand by her. You can send your armies. You can pass your laws, but I will not abandon her. The silence that followed was heavy. Some looked angry, others looked thoughtful. A few looked almost ashamed. Then the Dominion delegation arrived. They burst through the chamber doors without invitation. 20 soldiers in black armor, led by a tall reptilian general whose scales were marked with battle scars. "This council has no authority over Dominion property," the general announced. "The child was taken from a Dominion world. She belongs to us." "She is not property," shouted his frail body shaking with anger. "She is a child." "She is an asset," the general replied coldly. "And this human has stolen her. We demand her immediate return." He walked toward his soldiers following. "Step aside, primitive. You are out of your depth." "Did not move." The general stopped directly in front of him. He was twice height, covered in muscle and armor. "I will only ask once more." "And I will only answer once," said, "No." The general raised his hand to strike. Lyra screamed. The scream was not just sound. It was power. Every psychically sensitive being in the chamber collapsed to their knees. The crystal cracked, the starlight being flickered. Even the Dominion soldiers stumbled backward, clutching their heads. Lyra clung to, her tiny body glowing with white light. Her voice echoed through the chamber, young but filled with ancient power. "You will not touch him." The general stared at her with something that might have been fear. Then he looked at with hatred. "This is not over," he hissed. "The Dominion will have what belongs to it." He turned and marched out with his soldiers. The chamber slowly recovered. Elder approached, his old face filled with wonder. "In 60,000 years, I have never seen a child manifest such power. The bond between you is stronger than anything I have witnessed." The in-starlight robes descended from her platform. "I am Sira. I believe we have been foolish. The child has spoken clearly. She has chosen her guardian." She turned to the others. "I move that we grant this human temporary guardianship under council observation. A peacekeeper liaison will be assigned to monitor and assist." "Agreed," said several. "This is madness," growled, but he did not vote against. The motion passed. That evening sat in a small quarters assigned to him on the station. Lyra was asleep beside him, exhausted from her outburst. A peacekeeper officer entered quietly. She was human, young, perhaps late 20s, with sharp eyes and a military bearing. Korean, judging by her features. "I am Lieutenant," she said. "I have been assigned as your liaison." Nodded. "Thank you for your service." "Do not thank me yet." Her voice was cold. "I think the council made a mistake. I think you are unqualified and unprepared. I will be watching you very carefully." She turned to leave. "Lieutenant," called. She stopped. "I hope I prove you wrong." She did not respond. She simply walked out. Looked down at Lyra. She was so small, so fragile. The entire galaxy wanted to use her or protect her or claim her, but she had chosen a simple farmer from a tiny village. "I do not know what I am doing," he whispered to her sleeping form, "but I promise I will figure it out." Outside the window, the stars continued their endless dance, and somewhere in the dark, the Dominion was already planning its next move. Brought Lyra home to Earth. The Galactic Council allowed it because she was calmer there, away from the noise and politics of space. Lieutenant came with them, assigned to watch and report. She made it clear she expected to fail. The first weeks were difficult. Lyra did not speak much. She followed everywhere, a tiny silver shadow. She flinched at loud sounds. She cried in her sleep almost every night. The trauma of losing her family, of running, of nearly dying, lived inside her like a dark storm. Did not push her. He had seen trauma before in soldiers and in animals. He knew that healing took time and patience, so he simply included her in his daily life. When he fed the chickens, she came along. When he treated sick animals at his small clinic, she sat nearby and watched. When he cooked dinner, she stood on a chair beside him, learning to stir pots and chop vegetables. Slowly, very slowly, she began to open. The first real breakthrough came on a rainy evening. was reading a book by lamplight when Lyra climbed into his lap. She looked up at him with those violet eyes and spoke for the first time in days. "Why did you help me?" "Set down his book, because you needed help." "But you did not know me. I am not human, I am strange." "Everyone is strange," said gently. "Being strange does not mean you do not deserve kindness." Lyra thought about this. The others, the big beings in space, they wanted me for what I can do. They wanted my power. You do not want my power. "No," said honestly. "I do not even understand your power. I just want you to be safe and happy." Tears filled her eyes. "My father said the same thing before they killed him." Held her while she cried. He did not say anything. Sometimes there were no words. Sometimes you just had to be there. Lieutenant watched from across the room. Her expression was unreadable, but something in her eyes had softened. As the weeks passed, Lyra grew stronger. She began to smile. She began to laugh. She learned Korean words and mixed them with her own language in funny ways. She called because she found difficult to say. She also began to explain her gift. "I see souls," she told him one afternoon as they walked through the rice fields. "Every living thing has a soul, a light inside them. Most souls are small and quiet. They think clearly but feel softly. That is normal for most species in the galaxy." "What about humans?" asked. Lyra looked up at him. "Human souls are different. They burn bright like small suns. They feel so strongly, love and anger and sadness and hope all mixed together. It is loud. It is messy. But it is beautiful." She touched his hand. "Your soul is the warmest I have ever seen. When I was in my broken ship, dying and scared, I could feel your light from far away. It called to me. It said, 'Come here, you will be safe.' That is why I bonded with you." Did not know what to say. He had never thought of himself as special. He was just a man who liked animals and quiet evenings. But to this tiny girl from across the stars, he was a beacon of warmth. Accompanied them on their walk, keeping a professional distance. Later that evening, she approached while Lyra was asleep. "I need to report to the council," she said. "What should I tell them?" "Tell them the truth," replied. "The truth is that you are doing well," admitted. "Better than I expected. She is healing." "Thank you." Hesitated. "I was wrong about you. I thought you were just some random farmer who got lucky. But you genuinely care about her, not for political reasons, not for power, you just care." "Is that so unusual?" "Yes," said quietly. "In my experience, yes. The galaxy is full of beings who want something. Very few just want to help." From that night, his attitude changed. She stopped watching like a suspicious guard and started acting like an ally. She helped him understand galactic technology. She taught Lyra self-defense techniques appropriate for her size. She even began to eat meals with them, becoming part of their small family. One day, a visitor arrived. A representative from a massive galactic corporation, dressed in expensive clothing and carrying a case full of credit chips. He wanted to make a deal. "They have the ability to see the future," he explained smoothly. "Business predictions, market forecasts, disaster warnings. Think of what she could do for the economy. Think of how rich you could become." Looked at the case full of more money than he could spend in 100 lifetimes. Then he looked at Lyra, who was hiding behind his leg, her violet eyes filled with fear. "No," said. "You do not understand," the representative pressed. "We are talking about more wealth than your entire planet has ever seen." I said no. His voice was harder now. "She is a child, not a product. Leave my home." The representative's smile turned cold. "You will regret this, human. The galaxy rewards those who cooperate. And I reward guests who respect my family with my hospitality. You have not earned it. Leave." The representative left, watched the ship depart, her hand resting on her weapon. "There will be more like him," she said. "I know. How will you protect her from all of them?" Looked at Lyra, who had come out of hiding and was now playing with a small kitten that had wandered into the yard. One day at a time. That is all anyone can do. That night Lyra had a nightmare. She screamed and thrashed, trapped in memories of fire and death. Rushed to her side and held her, singing softly, a lullaby his grandmother had taught him long ago. But Lyra shook her head. No, sing the song the one elder taught you. Had spent hours learning that song, practicing the strange words and melodies. His pronunciation was terrible. His timing was wrong. But he sang it anyway, his voice rough and imperfect. Lyra smiled through her tears. It is not very good. I know. But it is perfect because you tried. She curled up against him, her tiny body relaxing. You learned it for me. Of course I did. She fell back asleep in his arms, her breathing steady and calm. The nightmares did not return that night. Elder visited via a communication screen a few days later. His health was failing. He did not have much time left, but he needed to speak with Alone. There is a prophecy, said, his ancient voice weak but serious. The Four saw many things before we died. We saw our extinction. We saw the darkness that would swallow the galaxy, but we also saw hope. What hope? A child would survive, the last of our royal line. She would be raised by a guardian from a young world, someone with a soul like fire, and she would grow to unite the fractured galaxy, to bring light to the darkness. His eyes were intense. That child is Lyra, that guardian is you. The prophecy spoke of this moment 10,000 years ago. Felt the weight of those words settle on his shoulders. I am not a hero, I am not a leader, I am just a man. That is exactly what makes you right, said. Heroes seek glory, leaders seek power, you seek nothing but her safety. That is the fire the prophecy spoke of, a love that asks for nothing in return. The old leaned closer to the screen. The road ahead will be hard. The Dominion will not stop. Others will try to use her or destroy her. But as long as you refuse to break, as long as your heart stays true, she will have a chance. I will not let her down, promised. I know, said with a sad smile. I saw it in your soul the moment we met. You will never let her down. The screen went dark, would be dead within a year, but his faith in would carry far beyond his death. Outside, Lyra was chasing fireflies in the evening darkness, her laughter echoing across the farm. Sat on the porch, watching with a smile she did not try to hide. Joined her, she seems happy. She is, agreed, because of you. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the tiny silver girl dance among the lights. The galaxy was vast and dangerous and full of enemies, but in this small corner of Earth, there was peace. And that peace was worth protecting. The attack came on a quiet summer night. Was awake, unable to sleep, sitting on his porch and watching the stars. Had gone to the nearby town for supplies. Lyra was asleep in her small bed, dreaming peaceful dreams. Then the sky tore open. A Dominion warship appeared above the farm, black and angular against the stars. Smaller craft dropped from its belly like falling stones, landing hard in the rice fields. Soldiers poured out, 12 of them, covered in dark armor and carrying weapons that glowed red in the darkness. Did not panic. His military training kicked in immediately. He had 47 seconds before they reached the house, 47 seconds to prepare. He grabbed Lyra from her bed. She woke instantly, her violet eyes wide with fear. They found us. I know, stay hidden. Do not come out no matter what. He placed her in a small storage space beneath the floorboards, a hiding spot he had prepared for exactly this moment. He covered it with a rug and pushed a heavy cabinet over it. Lyra whispered through the cracks, I am scared. I know, little one, but I will not let them take you, I promise. He grabbed what he had, a hunting rifle, a knife, and his knowledge of the land. Then he stepped outside to face an army. The Dominion soldiers were enhanced, bigger and stronger than any human, with armor that could stop bullets and weapons that could level buildings. Their leader was a massive reptilian commander, the same one from the council chamber. "Human," the commander called out, "you have something that belongs to the Dominion. Give us the child and you may live." "She belongs to no one," replied. His voice was steady. "Especially not to you." The commander laughed. "You think you can fight us? You are one man with primitive weapons. We are 12 enhanced soldiers of the Dominion army. This is not a battle. This is an execution." "Then come execute me." The soldiers charged. What happened next would become legend across the galaxy. Did not fight like a soldier. He fought like a farmer who knew every inch of his land. He led them into the rice paddies, where the shallow water and soft mud slowed their heavy armor. He used the darkness and the tall grass to disappear and reappear, striking from unexpected angles. His first shot took out a soldier's knee joint, the one weakness in their armor. The soldier fell face first into the mud. 2 more shots disabled another's weapon arm. The soldiers fired back, their plasma weapons burning through the night. Used the terrain, ducking behind irrigation mounds, rolling through ditches, always moving. He had trained for this kind of combat in the mountains of Korea. He had fought in conditions far worse than this. A soldier got close, swinging a blade that could cut through steel. Ducked, slashed at the gap in the armor at the elbow, and twisted the blade away. He used the soldier's own weapon to block another attack, then buried his knife in the gap beneath a helmet. 3 down, 9 to go. But they were learning. They spread out, using their superior numbers to corner him. A plasma bolt caught his shoulder, burning through flesh. Another grazed his leg. He was slowing down. The commander stepped forward, tired of watching. "Enough games, kill him and find the child." 6 soldiers closed in, raised his rifle, knowing it was not enough, knowing this might be the end. Then a gunshot rang out from the darkness. One of the soldiers collapsed, shot through the visor. Another gunshot, another soldier fell. Grandmother Bong Soon emerged from the tree line, her ancient hunting rifle smoking. She was 78 years old, bent with age, but her aim was perfect. "Leave our doctor alone," she shouted. More figures appeared. Park, the teenage farmhand, drove his father's tractor straight into a Dominion shuttle, smashing it against a tree. Uncle Sangho, the retired fisherman, fired at the soldiers with a shotgun. Aunt threw farming tools at anyone who got close. The village of 63 people in total had come to fight. They were farmers and shopkeepers and grandmothers. They had no training, no armor, no advanced weapons, but they had known since he was a boy. They had seen him care for their animals, deliver their bobbies, sit with them through long nights of illness. He was their doctor, their neighbor, their friend. And the little silver girl who followed him everywhere, she was their girl too. The Dominion soldiers did not know how to respond. They had expected one man. They got an entire village. The humans attacked from every direction, relentless and fearless. A soldier would knock one down and 3 more would take their place. Grandmother Bong Soon stood beside, reloading her rifle. "You should have asked for help, boy. That is what neighbors are for." "I did not want anyone to get hurt." "Too late for that. Now shoot something." Together they pushed back. The soldiers, confused and outnumbered in ways they never expected, began to retreat. But the commander refused to give up. He charged through the chaos, heading straight for his house. Saw him. Wounded, exhausted, bleeding from a dozen cuts, he ran to intercept. He threw himself at the massive reptilian, tackling him just before he reached the door. They fought in the dirt, human and alien. The commander was stronger, faster, enhanced by technology beyond human understanding. He threw against the wall of the house. He kicked him in the ribs. He lifted him by the throat. "You cannot win," the commander hissed. "You are nothing, your species is nothing." Grabbed the commander's wrist, fighting for air. "Maybe, but nothing or not, I will never stop. Never." The commander raised his other hand, claws extended, ready to tear out's heart. Then the wall exploded. Light, pure and white and blinding, poured from inside the house. Lyra stood in the doorway, her tiny body glowing like a star. Tears streamed down her face. Her violet eyes blazed with power no one knew she possessed. "Let him go." Her voice was not loud, but it shook the world. The commander staggered backward, releasing. His soldiers collapsed to their knees, clutching their heads as Lyra's power pressed against their minds. "You hurt him," Lyra said, stepping forward. "You tried to take me. You killed my family, no more." She raised her hand. The commander's ship, still hovering above, began to shudder. Alarms blared inside it. Systems failed. Engines died. It crashed into the empty field beyond the village, a massive fireball that lit up the night. The surviving soldiers fled, dragging their wounded with them. The commander, barely conscious, crawled toward a remaining shuttle. "This is not over," he gasped. "The Dominion will destroy your entire planet for this." Lyra walked toward him. She was small, barely reaching his knee. But in that moment she was terrifying. "Tell your leaders what happened here. Tell them a human stood against you and did not fall. Tell them a village of farmers defeated your soldiers. And tell them if they ever come back, I will show them what it can really do." The commander retreated. The shuttle vanished into the sky. The Dominion was gone. Lay in the dirt, broken and bleeding. Lyra ran to him, her power fading, her small body shaking with exhaustion. "Please wake up." He opened his eyes, everything hurt, but he smiled. "I told you I would not let them take you." "You are hurt. You are hurt so badly." She was crying, pressing her hands against his wounds as if she could heal them with will alone. "I will be fine, just need some rest." Arrived minutes later with a medical team. She had seen the explosion from town and raced back. When she saw the battlefield, the burning ship, the wounded soldiers, the village standing victorious, she could not believe it. "What happened here?" Grandmother Bongsoon sat on a rock, calmly reloading her rifle. "We protected our own. That is what happened." Was taken to a medical facility, his wounds treated with advanced technology had brought. He would survive. He would heal. But he would carry scars for the rest of his life. That night, footage of the battle spread across the galaxy. Hidden cameras, satellite recordings, eyewitness accounts from the peacekeepers who arrived too late. The universe watched a single human and a village of farmers defeat a Dominion strike team. For the first time, the galaxy truly saw humanity, not the primitive species they had dismissed, not the emotional savages they had feared. They saw courage. They saw loyalty. They saw love that refused to surrender. And they began to wonder what else they had been wrong about. Lyra sat beside Sped, holding his hand, refusing to leave. Brought her food, but she barely ate. She just watched him sleep, her violet eyes filled with something deeper than gratitude. "He almost died for me," she whispered. "He would do it again," said quietly. "That is the kind of man he is." "I know," Lyra squeezed his hand. "That is why I chose him." Outside the window, the stars continued their eternal dance. But somewhere among them, the balance of power had begun to shift. A tiny village had an empire. A simple farmer had become a legend. And the galaxy would never be the same. The Galactic Council chamber was fuller than it had ever been. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the observation galleries, having traveled across the stars to witness this historic session. The 12 elders sat on their platforms, their faces grave. The Dominion delegation stood on one side, their general flanked by lawyers and diplomats. On the other side stood, still healing from his wounds, with Lyra holding his hand and standing guard beside them. The Dominion general spoke first, his voice sharp with anger. "This human committed acts of war against the Dominion. He killed our soldiers. He destroyed our property. He harbors a fugitive asset that rightfully belongs to us. We demand justice. We demand he be executed and the child delivered to Dominion custody." Murmurs rippled through the gallery. Many species feared the Dominion. Their fleet was massive. Their empire was cruel. Standing against them meant risking everything. The crystalline being who had opposed from the beginning leaned forward. "The charges are serious. What do you have to say, human?" Stepped forward. He was tired, his body ached, but his voice was clear. "Your soldiers invaded a peaceful planet. They attacked a civilian home in the middle of the night. They tried to kidnap a child. I defended my family. If that is a crime, then I am guilty. But I would do it again without hesitation." "You admit to killing Dominion soldiers?" the general demanded. "I admit to stopping men who were trying to hurt a child I love." The word hung in the air. Love. It was not a word often heard in the council chamber. Politics, treaties, resources, power, those were the languages spoken here. But love, that was something else entirely. Lyra stepped forward. She was so small among all these massive beings, but she showed no fear. "May I speak?" The exchange glances. A child addressing the council was unprecedented. But Sira, the being of starlight, nodded. "You may speak, Princess Lyra." Lyra looked around the chamber, her violet eyes seeing more than anyone knew. "I am the last of the royal line. My people are almost gone. The Dominion hunted us because they wanted to use our gifts as weapons. They killed my parents. They killed my brother. They killed thousands of children just like me, children who only wanted to live and play and grow up." Her voice trembled but did not break. "When my ship crashed, I was dying. I was alone. I had lost everything. Then I felt a light, warm and bright, calling to me through the darkness. It was his light," she pointed at. "His soul was so full of kindness that it reached me across the void." She turned to face the Dominion delegation. "You call me an asset. You call me property, but I am a person. I am a child. And he is my father now, not by blood but by choice. The most sacred choice my people can make." The general sneered. Pretty words from a traumatized child. The soul bond was made in desperation. It has no legal standing. A new voice echoed through the chamber, old and tired but filled with ancient authority. "That is where you are wrong." Everyone turned. A hologram flickered to life in the center of the room. Elder, barely alive, his silver skin almost transparent with illness, appeared before them. "I am the last elder of the. Before I die, I must speak the truth that my people have kept hidden for 10,000 years." He paused, gathering his strength. "We foresaw our extinction. We knew the darkness would come for us. But we also saw hope. A prophecy, older than most civilizations represented here, spoke of a child who would survive. She would bond with a guardian from a young world, a world considered primitive and insignificant, and together they would begin the healing of a fractured galaxy." His image turned to face. "You fear humans because they feel too strongly. You dismiss them because they are young and emotional and unpredictable, but you have forgotten something important. Once all your species felt as they do. Once you loved and raged and hoped with that same fire. Somewhere along the way you became cold, efficient, empty." His voice grew stronger. This man was willing to die for a child not his own, not even his species. His neighbors, simple farmers with no training and no weapons, stood against the greatest military in the galaxy because they refused to let evil win. Can any of you say the same? Can any of your species claim such courage? The chamber was silent. The soul bond is not a mistake. It is not desperation. It is the recognition of a worthy soul. In all our history, no has ever found an alien worthy. Until now. That should tell you something. His image began to fade, his strength failing. "I have one final prophecy to share. The darkness is coming. Worse than the Dominion, worse than anything you have faced. When it arrives, you will need humans. You will need their fire, their love, their stubborn refusal to surrender. Reject them now and you condemn yourselves." The hologram vanished. Elder, the last adult, was gone. The silence stretched for a long moment, then Sira stood. I move that all charges against be dismissed. He acted in defense of his family against unlawful aggression. Seconded, said another, a being covered in gentle blue light. I also move, Sira continued, that be granted the status of eternal guardian, with all rights and protections that title provides, and that Princess Lyra be recognized as his legal daughter under galactic law. The Dominion general slammed his fist against his platform. This is outrageous. You cannot elevate a primitive to such status. The motion is on the floor, said slowly. For the first time his voice held no contempt. All in favor. One by one the voted, 8 in favor, 3 abstaining. 1 opposed, a species aligned with the Dominion. The motion passed. Sira descended from her platform and approached. She produced a small medallion, made of metal that shifted colors in the light. Of Earth, by the authority of the Galactic Council, you are hereby recognized as Eternal Guardian. This title has been granted only 12 times in galactic history. You are the first human to receive it. Your daughter, Princess Lyra, is under your protection now and forever. No government, no empire, no power in the universe may separate you without your consent. She placed the medallion around his neck. Then she did something unexpected. She bowed. Thank you, she said, for reminding us what courage looks like. The gallery erupted, not in anger but in something else. Applause. Species who had dismissed humanity were cheering. Beings who had never considered Earth worth noticing were on their feet. The Dominion general stormed out, defeated and furious. But as he left, a dozen species blocked his path, their eyes hard. The Dominion threatened a guardian, one of them said. That means you threatened us all, we will remember. The balance of power had shifted, not through war or politics, but through the simple act of a man protecting a child. In the aftermath, the Council made another announcement. Earth was offered accelerated membership in the galactic community, sponsored by 12 species. Humanity, once dismissed as primitive, was welcomed as an equal. Did not care about any of it. He took Lyra home. The village of greeted them like heroes. Grandmother Bongsoon had organized a feast. Park had rebuilt the damaged parts of the farm. Everyone wanted to see the little silver girl and her guardian. That evening, sat on his porch, Lyra asleep against his chest. Her tiny hand gripped his shirt the way it always did. Sat beside him, watching the sunset paint the rice fields gold. You know the whole galaxy is watching us now, said. Shrugged, let them watch. I have crops to harvest and a kid to raise. Smiled, it was a real smile, warm and open. You know, when I was assigned to you, I thought it was a waste of time. I thought you were nobody. I am nobody. No, she said softly. You are exactly who you were meant to be. They sat in comfortable silence. Then Lyra stirred in her sleep. Her lips moved, forming a word had never heard her say before. Father. His eyes filled with tears. He held her, this tiny girl from across the stars who had chosen him, who had given him purpose when he thought he had none. I am here, he whispered. I will always be here. Above them the stars began to appear one by one. The galaxy was vast and dangerous and full of wonders. There were challenges ahead, enemies to face, a prophecy to fulfill, but none of that mattered right now. Right now there was only this, a father and his daughter, a home rebuilt from ashes, a love that crossed the stars. And somewhere out there, among the countless worlds and species watching, beings were beginning to understand something new. Humanity was not just loud and emotional and strange. They were fierce protectors, loyal friends, and stubborn survivors. They were exactly what the galaxy needed. And it all started with a simple farmer who found a scared little girl in his rice field and decided, without hesitation, to keep her safe. Some stories begin with great heroes and ancient prophecies. but the best ones begin with ordinary people who choose to be extraordinary when it matters most. This was one of those stories. And it was only the beginning.